Listen, Jack, I'm honored then, and it's just a great pleasure to be doing business with you again.
Oh, that's great. Remember we met in Ottawa briefly that day?
That's right.
And then we had you on once before, and here I am actually on bloody pins and needles tonight about what the hell I'm going to ask you, because you've been asked every bloody question in the world already. So you'll forgive me if I go over some of the old ground a bit.
No problem.
2 minutes till we go on.
Okay.
And we're going to use a rundown tonight. Yes, we're using the rundown, aren't we? God, imagine me being nervous of all bloody people.
Makes two of us.
Ah, come off it.
It's true.
Come off it. I limped into the office today thinking, oh, Jesus. And all I'm drinking's coffee.
Well, that's a good sign.
But I'm still smoking.
Well, we'll have to get you out on the road, Jack, and you'll spend a day out there in the cycle with us, and we'll smarten you up. We'll get Mike on the nutrition. We'll get Amanda on the exercise program, and you'll be as good as new.
Yeah, well, give me hell for smoking while you're on the air.
Okay.
You know, if you think about it.
Sure.
Yeah. Man, I'm only 25 pounds overweight. That's not too bad. Is it?
No, that's pretty good.
25 pounds, and I'm only 4'6". In fact, I'm terrible. I'm an unregenerate, unrecalcitrant slob.
I wouldn't say that, Jack.
Please be aware, make sure at no time to shut off 12:40.
I will make sure at no time do I cut off Rick's feed. Now, what happens when we take the other calls? Does that stay open?
Yes, always leave that.
That always leaves open, because I can put 2 calls on at the air at once, can't I? Oh, my God.
So we're half an hour, Jack, are we? Or
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay.
1 segment with me, 1 commercial break, and 1 segment with calls.
Okay.
And you should be able to hear the calls all right.
15 away, Jack.
Okay, 15 seconds there.
Good evening. A very special interview with a very special Canadian who is coming home for the most massive celebration and demonstrations ever seen in the city of Vancouver. You can guess who he is, but here's Ted with the rundown.
Tonight on Webster, while the federal government was negotiating a softwood lumber tax with the U.S., our then provincial forest minister was acting on his own. Did Jack Kempf's overtures to the Americans help or hinder the final deal? That topic and others, as Webster speaks with Pat Carney, MP for Vancouver Centre and Federal Minister for International Trade. And continuing with the best of Webster, it's back to mid-December 1978. Shirley MacLaine has Webster right where she wants him, out on a limb. But first, live from Kamloops and almost finished his round-the-world odyssey to raise money and awareness for spinal cord research. Rick Hanson is up first with Webster.
And Rick, it's no exaggeration to say that I have interviewed every VIP that has passed this way in the past 40 years. But I've never been so nervous as I am tonight, because what am I going to say to you? You're magnificent, you're wonderful, you're fantastic, terrific. Here's a question. How did you do it?
Well, I don't know, Jack. Sometimes I'm asking myself the same question. First of all, I'd like to say it's great talking to you again, as it always is, and I'm really looking forward to coming back home. But what's really kept me going to get this far and to get through all the difficult times is to strongly believe in the dream, and then, of course, be willing to commit my whole life to achieve the dream. And then, you know, I have the great team of people behind me, as you've seen, and that team has grown day by day, kilometer by kilometer, throughout the last 2 years.
You know, 20 years ago, we used to think, oh, isn't that wonderful, when we'd see a basketball team playing some kind of dodgeball or basketball out of wheelchairs, and we thought, oh, that's fantastic, some activity. What have you done for the awareness of handicapped athletes?
Well, I don't know. I really hope that as a result of the tour, we've created a lot of awareness about disabled persons in general. I think we're challenging people to take a second look at the term disability and reevaluate their definition of it. I hope that we're also challenging people to realize that what we should be focusing on is ability, and the fact that someone may have a physical setback in their life shouldn't dictate whether we perceive them as an individual or not. People are people, whether they have a physical disability or not.
What you have proven, though, and really I mean this too, is that there's nothing an individual cannot do within set and outside limits once he sets his or her mind to it. Is that not correct?
I totally agree with that. I think that if you really are believe in something and you're willing to persevere and commit yourself to it, you'd be surprised at the great levels of achievement you can rise to. I think what really counts, though, is that we strive to reach our full potential in life, and hopes and dreams are all relative, and each are equally important. And I think that that's really what life's all about. And I think, too, that you mentioned about disabled athletes, and before, a lot of people perceived disabled athletes as, my, isn't that marvelous? It's rehabilitation, it's recreation. We'd like to think that people are now thinking about disabled athletes as athletes first, and the fact that disabled is only a matter of fact.
I don't want to sadden you in any way, shape, or form, but I think that you have given, of course, countless thousands of disabled people the highest form of inspiration. But would it be fair to ask you to go back to those days when you were 15 or so, when you were absolutely at your lowest ebb, when you thought, this is the end, here I am stuck, here I am, I can't do anything. Was there a spark that started you off on your incredible movement to this magnificent success?
I've been very fortunate throughout my life. First of all, before my injury, athletics taught me to deal with setbacks, and it taught me to set goals and to continue to strive forward to overcome adversity. It taught me also how to adapt to the situations at hand. It couldn't in any way prepare me for what I was about to encounter after my accident in June of '73. But I was very fortunate. I had a good family and friends behind me all the way. I also had a physical education instructor. His name was Bob Redford. He encouraged me along the way to keep reaching for something that was in my heart, and that was my athletics, to realize that just because I had a disability didn't mean I couldn't continue to strive towards expressing myself athletically. I also was very fortunate to meet an individual from Vancouver, and he's been a great force in my life right up until this very moment, and that's Stan Strong. And not too many people know about Stan, but he's an incredible individual. He's contributed and inspired a lot of people like me to get off your butt, so to speak, and back out into life again.
Now, to come to your trip across Canada, one of the routine repertorial questions. How do you manage to keep the concentration necessary and the physical will to keep moving all the time in some of the horrendous conditions you've encountered?
Well, I think that we've been tested long before we reached Canada. We really encountered a lot of difficulties in the early phases of the tour that made things almost seem insurmountable. Times when it was blowing hard, it was cold, it was wet, I was injured. There was thousands of miles of nowhere and no one around. We were wondering whether we were having an impact or not. And yet, I think the common belief in the dream, realizing that we knew what we wanted to accomplish, we were going to continue to strive towards accomplishing that regardless of the circumstances. And we weren't going to come away from this project with anything other than knowing that we'd given it everything we could.
Right. With Amanda, of course, and your support team, you got your daily attentions. But can I ask you, how are you feeling today when you're within, how many miles? 1,200 miles of Oak Ridge Shopping Centre on May the 22nd and 23rd? 22nd.
Today, I'm feeling fantastic, Jack. I probably feel the best I've felt since I left on this journey. Physically, I've had a chance to recover from a lot of the injuries I had throughout the early part of the tour because winter was kind to us, as you know. And Amanda's been taking fantastic care of those injuries and monitoring them daily. I've also had a chance now to feel the momentum and excitement of home. Since we've come back into British Columbia, I didn't think it was possible, but the people have responded even at a greater level. I mean, the percentage of the people out in the streets and responding is incredible, and I can feel home. I feel like I am home in some ways, but yet Vancouver is not that far away now.
Now, wait till you see the crowds at BC Stadium on the 23rd of May. That's going to be quite an occasion, I can tell you. Now, another repertorial question. You've had to modify and adjust and change wheelchairs. How many wheelchairs? We've
gone through at least 8 wheelchairs. One we destroyed, and the others have evolved along the way for various purposes and functions.
Last time I was talking to you, you were telling me about your thermostatically controlled indicators to make sure you didn't get frostbite when you couldn't feel it. Did they all work all the time?
Yes, we had a good chance to test them out in the field, and they worked fantastically. And I think that equipment is going to go a long way to help other people in the future and stimulate new research. So it did the job. All the clothing and the equipment that we designed for winter, it worked just perfectly. And I got to say great things about the people that organized that back in Vancouver.
Can I make a confession to you?
What's that?
The day you started from Oak Ridge,
Yeah?
I was going to come, and then I thought, you know, he can't possibly do it. I didn't come. So will you please accept my humble and sincere apologies for not recognizing the magnificent determination of the Hanson man, the man in motion.
Well, Jack, it doesn't matter really whether you're there in the beginning. The fact is you're there now, and that's really what counts. And,
well, British Columbia is ablaze with admiration, and not that you need any comfort, admiration and respect for what you've done. Now, go on.
I was going to say, what's this I hear about, you know, we're going to be home in May 22nd on a Friday, but I hear that you're not sticking around for us. You're off the air.
Well, my program will be off there, but I think I'll be sticking around for you on May 22nd, 23rd, and I'll be up to get your autograph with everybody else.
Maybe we'll get you to come up to the road here, Jack, and we'll put you on a bike and we'll do a special interview up here or something.
But you'd make me stop smoking.
Yeah, listen, we've got to get you to stop smoking, and Amanda will put out a good training program for you.
And you'll
then
make
you'll
me
come out
lose.
and we'll put you out on the bike, and you'll have a great day. And
I mean, I'm only
good as new.
I'm only 4 feet 6 and weigh 260 pounds. She's going to have to take at least 20 pounds off me.
She can do it, believe me.
Look, my undying admiration. And if you'll just hold still with us for a moment, we'll take a break, and then we're going to take calls to Rick Hanson, the man in motion, in Kamloops, from you. Short, sharp comments or questions after the break. Go ahead to Rick Hanson.
Yes, good evening, Jack. Good evening, Rick. I think you might know who this is. It's Wally. I said goodbye to you when you left, and I'm just saying hello to you, and you did a terrific job, boy.
Well, thanks very
I'm
much.
very pleased to see that you made the trip, and I hope you're not in too much pain.
No, I'm definitely not, and I really appreciate you being there in the beginning, and we look forward to seeing you there when we get back.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
My name's Stephen Pollock, and I suffered from spinal cord injury this summer. And I just wanted to let you know that Brian Rhodes was up to see me at GS Strong to test out your McDonald's sensory, the padding for your legs to make sure that it fit you all right before sending it out east for you. And I just want to tell you how looking forward I am to see you when you get back into
Well,
town.
thanks a lot for your contribution, Stephen. I look forward to seeing you too.
Thank you.
Keep on rolling, man.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rick. I just would like to say good luck to you.
Well, thanks very much.
Okay.
This is like having Michael J. Fox on. By the way, did you work with Michael Fox on the telephone one day?
Yes, I did. He's a great guy, Jack, and you know, I had a chance to meet him in New York as we went up the East Coast, and I can't say enough about him. We should all be proud of him in British Columbia and in Canada.
Good.
He's a great ambassador.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rick. I just wanted to know how you felt or how you control your feelings now that you're back home in your own province. How do you keep your excitement back from being so close to home?
Well, you know, coming back into British Columbia, it is a great feeling. It's overwhelming, but to be home amongst family and friends and to be so close to the end, I also have to really realize, though, that we have to keep to the same principles and fundamentals that have gotten us this far, and that's really what the tour is all about: staying focused and working, you know, day to day, realizing that the end is near, but there's still a lot of work in between.
Thanks very much. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rick. Congratulations on what you've done. But based on what you've accomplished, don't you feel that the word disabled is outdated or the wrong word to use now? Can you think of a better word that the public should be using?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up there. And
No, she raised an interesting point. She felt that the word disabled, in view of your performance, is outdated. And should there be another word?
I think you're right. The term disabled maybe should be reevaluated, and maybe we should all think about something a little different. I wonder if we have to really sit down and label people anyway.
Good, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Rick, my sincere congratulations. First of all, when you get back, are you and your crew not going to find it somewhat anticlimactic? What are you going to do to come off this incredible high that you must have been on for these 2 years?
That's a very good question, and it's something we have to be very, very concerned about. What we'll be doing is setting goals, just as we have throughout the rest of my life, and we have to prepare once we're home for an extended rest period, because physically and emotionally it has been a very difficult feat, and it's something we have to be careful to recover from. The potential is to get caught into this sweep of momentum and going around the country and doing a lot of things afterwards. But I've got to get my life back in order. I've got to get my feet back on the ground, rested. Then I'm looking forward to my marriage in October with Amanda. That'll be the priority of my life. And I'm looking also forward to resuming my athletic career and my profession in physical education. Those are important to me. And there are a lot of other things that may not seem significant to a lot of people on a social sense, but personally they're very important, and it's something that Rick Hanson's got to do as an individual before he's happy.
I can make one small prediction.
What's that?
You won't be traveling much when you come back for your rest, recuperation, and your marriage and honeymoon.
Good prediction.
Go ahead, please.
Rick Hanson, congratulations, you're an inspiration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was short enough. Go ahead, please.
Congratulations, Rick. You've done a fantastic job.
Did you hear that?
I'm sorry, that was breaking up again.
You've done a fantastic job, she said, a young woman's voice.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Congratulations, Rick. I just wanted to know, we know the physical challenge you faced, and I'm sure you've had emotional challenges as well. Which would you say has taken the toll on you the most?
I caught it up to the emotional challenge.
Physical challenge, emotional challenge, which has been the bigger of the two challenges?
I think life is full of challenges and setbacks, and I think that the emotional battle has always been the most difficult. Physically, one can persevere and endure in a mechanical sense, but I think that you have to deal with yourself as an individual, the emotions, the thoughts, and feelings, and the circumstances that you encounter on a daily basis. And that's really what the tour has all been about for me. The struggle has been within myself, and I think there's a real key to that, and I think it can be applied to other people as well.
The children along the route must have been a great inspiration, especially those children who are, I've got to use the word disabled, or in a wheelchair.
Well, I think you're right, Jack.
And lost the line. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rick. It's Randy Brown calling here.
Hey, Randy. How you doing?
Going? Listen, I've been following you for 2 years, and I just want you to know I'm really happy you're back, and I'm going to be looking forward to seeing you down at BC Place.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay.
Jack, this is one of the first financial supporters of the entire tour. It's great to hear you, Randy,
Okay,
and
Rick.
we'll see you soon.
Take care.
By the way, you're up to $8.8 million today in your $10 million target, so you're going to make it easy, or you're not.
Well, it looks pretty encouraging. We're working hard to that, but I think too, Jack, we have to keep this in perspective and make sure that we understand that I don't want the success of the tour to be judged merely by the dollars and cents that are in the bank. We have to go beyond that. The awareness is much more important, I think.
The awareness is much more important, but who knows what the money for research might achieve, because as you and I both know, there is very encouraging research being experimented with now on the nerve connections in the back.
That's right, and the funds will be going to help spinal cord injured persons, and the interest will be spent forever. So that's going to make great progress, for a very long time. It'll be a permanent tribute.
Thank you very much. By the way, what did you eat mostly on this?
Well,
what was your diet? Tell me your diet.
Mike keeps me well fed. There's nothing magic about my diet. We monitor it fairly closely. The caloric intake is around 3,500 calories per day. And we monitor the percent carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, fluid intake, vitamins and minerals, and of course I weigh myself pretty well every morning. So those things are important, but to say that we go to a health food store and buy special foods is that's not the case. We just try to eat good, reasonable foods. Occasionally,
compare your condition. Compare your condition now to when you started. Your physical condition and your feeling of well-being.
My feeling of well-being, physical condition now is better than when I started, and that's not a word of a lie, because I just feel very, very good. A lot of people have been concerned about me, and rightfully so. So have I, and so has the crew. But we've come a long way in the last 8 months, and we've made steady progress, and I just feel very good at this point. You wonder why I've got such a big cook, Jack.
Yeah.
And that's because Mike's got to keep me in line once in a while. Every once in a while, I like to get those cravings, to go out and get junk food and things. So we get a big cook to keep me in line.
Well, at least have you had any junk food today?
No, nothing today.
Nothing today. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Jack. Rick.
Hi there.
Good is not the word, man. It's incredible what you've done. You deserve a fishing trip for a week in Campbell River for the big one.
Hey, listen.
That's about it, man. Hang in there, eh?
Thanks a lot.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rick.
Hi there.
I want to say that I love you and you're doing a tremendous job.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to seeing you in Vancouver.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Rick.
Yeah.
I was in GS Strong about 4 years ago when I was in a wheelchair there from actually a head injury. But I spent my time in a wheelchair, and you and a couple other guys played basketball and showed us how to play volleyball and stuff. And you probably won't remember me because you probably met so many people. But I remember you talked to me, and you're a big inspiration to me then. And God knows you're getting bigger and bigger all the time, and I can't say anything more than anyone else. So just keep on rolling.
Thanks a lot, and you too.
Bye.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, Rick.
Hi there.
Congratulations on that fantastic tour of yours. I think there are very few people have any conception of what a fantastic thing you have done. Last year, of course, we had Expo. By no manner of means is Rick Hanson second, but I think both of Expo and Rick Hanson will be on the BC map for many, many, many years to come. Good show.
Well, I'm honored you think that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Go ahead, please.
My name is Tina. I just want to wish Rick all the best.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
I was just wondering if I could read you a poem that I wrote for you.
Short one, yes.
Okay. Thinking not of yourself, just helping out others, reaching out to the world as sisters and brothers. Somewhere in all of us, you've touched a part that make us feel lucky we had a good start. You know not your pain, for your goal you just strive, the shining horizon and a part of our lives. Your face is filled with memories, our pride in you glows. You've brought out awareness, our world unity shows. You've crossed over mountains and more than one ocean. Your cause is shown through your true man in motion.
Well, isn't
That's
that
great.
very nice?
Thank you very much.
That's a very good note on which to end the interview and the calls. Rick Hanson, see you in Vancouver. Very many thanks for being available for us today, and all the best wishes in the world from everyone in the world.
Thanks a lot, Jack, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you. I'll be back after the break. Well, Pat Carney is the Minister for International Trade. Ms. Carney and I have worked together one way and another in newspapers, radio, television, against her, of course, because I'm always against the government. That's my role in life. And she sat down tonight and she's mad at me.
I'm really cross with you, Jack. Really cross.
Why?
Well, you told me that if I came on the show, I could get to say hi to Rick Hanson. And then once you got him on camera, you hugged it as usual, and you just wouldn't let me say hi until after the show. And then you missed the best question.
What was the best question?
The best question was when he said that he had been struggling emotionally, that there was a lot of emotional challenge and he had to struggle with himself. The obvious question was that at the beginning? Was it worse at the beginning or was it worse at the end? I mean, if he ever felt that he wanted to quit, when did that happen?
Well, just because you're a former journalist, you're not entitled to nag at me. In fact, there's a man who wrote about whom there's an article in the Globe and Mail magazine today who says, can I quote it? Do you mind?
Well, I certainly mind, but it wouldn't stop you anyway.
Well, I'm going to find it.
Well,
even if it's a slow start to the interview.
Well,
he says that your best future in your most competent area is as a journalist. Who was the man?
That was my big fan, Adam Zimmerman.
You were on this program a couple of months ago, and you really hammered him for flip-flopping and agreeing to certain things and then not agreeing to certain things. But he's still mad at you. Why is he still mad at you? So mad that he says that the 15% solution in one step created an industrial paraplegic out of the lumber industry, talking about Canada.
Well, I think that anyone who's followed the vicious attacks that he has been making on me would have to conclude that he's covering up his own ineptitude, because it was the insensitivity of people like Mr. Zimmerman to the rising wave of protectionism in the United States, which exposed the forest industry to that kind of countervail attack. Anyone who takes 30% of the market in the U.S. and doesn't realize that if you're shutting down jobs and mills there, you are going to expose yourself to trade harassment in a very protectionist mood, is incompetent and inept. And I feel that he is blaming me for his own incompetence in that area. I'd like to contrast it with the steel producers. This week I announced our new steel policy, which we worked out with the steel producers and with the union to avoid a unilateral attack on our industry by the Americans, who have had to shut down a lot of their own mills. And in total contrast, the policy that we worked out with the steel producers, they promised to continue to exercise prudence. They're not taking too great a share of the market. They're being careful about how many...
Holding back.
Holding back, maintaining their share. And of course, what we have done as a government is to introduce new legislation with the support of the opposition parties to make sure that we're monitoring our imports and exports.
In other words, that should have been done in the lumber industry. If they'd monitored the level of the increase of their sawn lumber going to the United States, they would have held back and perhaps avoided the whole crisis.
Well, I'm not going to reopen.
No.
I'm just saying that in the case of the steel, we worked with the industry. They exercised prudence. They helped us develop the policy, which we put in place, which has got very favorable support. And I think that that's a much better way of going about working with the government than constant, vicious personal attacks.
We'll talk about the free trade in a minute, because you were there. But were you really mad at Kempf for apparently talking to some American associates at the time you were negotiating the deal with the United States?
Yes, I think that was totally appalling. If you're a federal minister and you're involved with a threat to a $4 billion industry, I mean a huge industry, and you are fighting off a vicious countervail action, which is which is under American trade law, and you take the provinces into your confidence and the ministers into your confidence to help, fight off this attack, to find that one of the ministers is making something like 17 phone calls to the enemy and giving away all your strategy and giving away all your discussions is appalling. And I'm very pleased.
You don't really know that he did that, do you?
Well, he himself has said that he did.
He said he discussed it.
Well, he said he discussed it repeatedly, and I'm very pleased that Premier Van der Zalm has ordered an investigation into it.
Talking about Premier Van der Zalm again, what about this Council of Ministers between Ottawa and British Columbia to, certainly from Van der Zalm's point of view, to try and redress some of the financial disadvantages we suffer under, we're told? Is that meeting and is it working?
No, that's not the reason for the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers was set up after a conversation, a breakfast at 24 Sussex between the Prime Minister and the Premier that I attended as the Senior Minister for British Columbia. And the whole efforts were to ensure that the federal government and the province is on the same agenda. For instance, I've been working with the provincial government on this blueprint for Vancouver and BC to make it a big Pacific Rim center and make us the Pacific Rim province, because that's our fastest growing trade area. And it's working together.
It's going to work.
It's going to work. It's very exciting, and it shows the kind of...
Let's get to the recent summit, though. Did anything happen at the summit? We didn't win out in acid rain. I can see that. The Americans are dragging their feet in acid rain. We didn't do that well on Arctic sovereignty, because Joe says we might have to go to the World Court. Mr. Clark, the External Affairs Minister. What about international trade?
Well, first of all, you're wrong on your first 2 points. We did make progress on acid rain. That's the second time I've said it tonight. But we made progress on acid rain. We made progress on acid rain. I mean, we've come a long way with the President, who used to think, because the Prime Minister told me this once, the President used to think that acid rain was produced by plants. And he really believed that. And now we've got, him committing to, $2.5 billion program and promising to help resolve the trans-border emissions. I think we made a lot of progress. On sovereignty, he added to his text by saying that they would seek to find new ways of protecting our mutual sovereignty, the sovereignty and the security issue. And in trade, he made a really upfront commitment. You know, I mean, he said, what can I do to advance this? And he went back and said, this is his priority. But, you know...
The trouble is protectionism has taken over, not taken over, but the protectionist interests seem to be in the dominant aspect in the United States at the moment. And you've got a deadline of what, October 23?
About October to negotiate it. But, you know, after we had, when people say nothing happened, after we had our meetings, and there were private meetings with the Prime Minister, then open meetings with ministers like myself and Mr. Clark and Mr. Wilson. Then they went off to lunch at 24 Sussex, and I hosted a lunch for Clayton Yiter, the American trade rep. The Prime Minister told me afterwards that they shortened the lunch because the Prime Minister was President was so interested in seeing if he could advance the discussions that they had really a ad hoc meeting of the U.S. cabinet in the Prime Minister's living room. I mean, they ended the lunch, and then the Americans withdrew into the living room, shut the door, and they redrafted sections of the speech to try and beef up the American commitment. I thought that was a very interesting thing.
If we get some kind of agreement on international trade, would that mean that the countervail would come right off?
I don't want to comment specifically on the lumber case because I don't know what's going to happen in negotiations, but what it would mean is that you can't have that kind of dispute again without having a better way of dealing with it. We have made it very clear to the Americans that central to a new trade agreement with the U.S. has got to be some way of settling, you know, some binational, impartial tribunal where we can settle.
If we don't get an international trade agreement with the United States by October 23, is that it dead?
I don't see it likely to be revived in the next little while. First of all, we will have a new administration in the U.S. after 1988, and it's an issue which takes a lot of effort to...
Especially with many of the provinces like Peterson seeming to fight it.
Oh, yes, but, you know, we just say that Mr. Premier Peterson's very careful not to oppose it. He just sounds, you know, not quite convinced. And we just say you're denying to the regions of Canada the same advantages that you have with the Auto Pact. I mean, why can't Vancouver have the same access to the millions of people that live just across the border? I mean, think of what it would mean to our trade. Think of what it would mean to Vancouver.
But it's the dislocation in the meantime in various industries which might be overwhelmed by the Americans.
No, that's no.
Do you think that's an unreasonable fear?
Yes, I think that's an unreasonable fear. Something like 4 million Canadians change jobs in the course of a normal year. And, you know, the effect of a free trade agreement, which is going to be phased in over 10 years or 15 years or whatever.
4 times you've corrected me on this interview because I was in a soft mood after Hanson.
And I couldn't, and you never asked me to tell my jokes.
After the break. Call to Ms. Carney. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Ms. Carney.
Yeah.
Hi.
Are you, you're talking about the steel exports to the United States, and they're complaining about us dumping our steel down there. Are you aware that effective April 1st that all these steel imports into Canada from some countries, in particular like British Columbia, have been cut off on our steel supplies? And there's a severe shortage of steel plate and beams in British Columbia. And we're told that we must go to Central Canada to buy our materials. And Central Canada cannot supply British Columbia. So we're forced to go to the United States and buy our steel. Are you aware of all this?
Well, I know that you have had a problem in the past about being supplied by Central Canada, but I've been told by the steel producers in Central Canada they're going to bend over backwards to look after you here in BC. So if that problem has not been resolved, I'm going to go back to the steel producers and ask them to honor their agreement. But I mean, I don't know the specifics of the shortages you're talking about. I just know that there has been a problem in the past.
Well, in the past, this has happened before, and we've been cut off, and we've been put on allocations, and they can't supply.
Yep.
The same thing's happened now. If we order our steel from Central Canada now, we get deliveries in July, August, and September. Yeah. So how do they expect us to serve our customers' needs, especially when you've got these mega pulp mills being built in the province now, and we can't get steel. And the customers are saying, well, go down to the States and buy it and pay the premium. And
Well-
that sounds ludicrous.
Well, that does sound ludicrous, and since that there was a commitment made, I'll look into that again.
Go ahead. Nobody there. Go ahead, please. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I'd like to ask a question with regards to this drug legislation that's going through. There's been documented, it seems, proof that there were letters from some American pressure groups United States going to cabinet ministers to influence this drug legislation. And also at the Shamrock, there was some suggestions in the press that some kind of a verbal agreement had been established between Mr. Reagan and Mr. Mulrooney, just doing him a favor to getting the Americans off Reagan's back.
What's the position now on that legislation about freeing up the drug patent laws so that the copycats can't go into business on new drugs?
Well, yes, it's really to prevent theft, which is really what it is if you use somebody else's discoveries.
But it was the whole idea. I think you're missing the point.
Go on.
I'm sorry. I think that the whole idea here was that does this not the whole movement, this whole decision of presenting these laws in the House of Commons, does this not undermine your attempt in agreements for free trade? Because Canadians do feel that they're being shortchanged, that it's been a deal for free trade.
No. We should have. That's not the case at all, and we have said that over and over and over again. These changes should have been made a long time ago. And we're moving as the first government to move in this area, but it should have been done a long time ago. One of the most important areas in the free trade discussions, both among all the countries of the world in the GATT round and in the US talk, is to deal with this question of intellectual property, to protect people's rights to the things that they create, whether it's copyright laws or whether
television programs.
Well, yes, you're the expert on that. You can talk about that. But all of the countries who are involved in the trade liberalization, freeing up trade barriers, want to stop the theft of other people's ideas. And this is
Canadians are worried it'll put up drug prices and bring us up to Canadian levels, to American levels.
No, we have said over and over again that it will not affect the drugs that people are buying now, and it will help stimulate research and development in the creation of new drugs that people would need for various problems.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, Minister Carney?
Yes.
I want to know, if, in your opinion, do you think the United States and Canada will ever get to a point where there will be a common market, when there will be no tariff barriers between the two countries?
I think that we'll go a very long way in the trade discussions that we're having with the U.S., because the aim is to have an absence of tariffs by the end of the period, whatever we agree the end of the period would be. I mean, what we do is we say, let's assume that we can get to no tariff barriers by the year 2000. Now, sometimes that's practical, other times it may not be practical, we don't know, but that's what we're looking at.
To give us a common market, because we haven't got a common market at the moment anywhere in the world, have we?
It's not the same thing as a common market, because we would, but I don't want to get into the technical discussions of the difference between common markets and free trade areas and that.
Tell me I'm wrong again. Anyway,
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
That's not hard.
Hello, what's your government doing to get people informed about free trade? So that, like, you're sitting there now, but besides that, I don't think a lot of people really understand what it means.
I think that's a good point, because the debate has really just started. We had, we had what I call the great trade debate in the House, and a couple of weeks ago, and all parties put out their positions. We have MPs speaking. We have, cabinet ministers speaking on the issue. Increasingly, we have business and union people talking on the issue. So I think that from now on, over the next few months, you're going to see more actual discussion about it. But remember, until just in the last few weeks, we didn't have much to talk about. I mean, we didn't know whether we were going to get a deal, and we weren't sure what could be in the deal. Well, now we're getting a clearer sense of you know, what kind of things that
But we won't know what's in the deal until the deal is actually made and presented to the House of Commons, or will it be debated in the House of Commons?
I can't answer that at this point because I don't know I don't know if we're going to get one. You know, I think we are going to get a free trade deal with the U.S.
How good
I
of
don't know
negotiators do you think Canadians are?
Pardon?
Do you think our Canadians are good negotiators?
Oh yes, in matter of fact, one of our frustrations has been that the Canadian side has been better prepared for these negotiations than the American side. I mean, we've had all our ducks lined up, and the Americans have been slow to respond in certain areas. But when the Prime Minister called up Vice President Bush and Treasury Secretary Baker earlier this year, that really
and told them off somewhat, as I recall.
well, yes, that really got the debate started again. So
Well,
I think it's a very exciting. I think it's a very exciting time because I think that this is a very exciting future. And
do you think we can achieve a free trade deal satisfactory to the West and to the Central Canada in the next few months? Yes or no?
yes, and you know, I don't understand.
And my time is up. You're being preempted for another woman. But my thanks to Pat Carney, Minister of International Trade. Got my own back after the break.
Why you cut me off in the middle of a sentence?
Had to. Continuing with the selection of the best of Webster, the time I was most embarrassed, I think, in all my adult life, by Shirley MacLaine in December 1978. I've read both your books, and I'd like to question you on politics as well as showbiz, right? And when I made the little crack about China, I wasn't quite joking. Why, what suddenly created your desire and need to go to China? Was it because of your campaigning with McGovern?
How does that, why does one of those have anything to
When
do
did you
with it?
first take an interest in politics?
I was about 12.
You're about 12. What are your politics?
They don't have a label, you see. My politics are really the search to learn. And if I think that someone is helping others, then I'm for them.
Yeah, McGovern, was he a great personal tragedy to you in the way that he, after the early start, collapsed and you watched your, I presume, your arch enemy Nixon waltz in?
He's everybody's arch enemy, isn't he? I mean, really.
Well, is he really?
No, come on, Jack. You know he should be in jail. You don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Come on, you know
But
that.
at the same time, why does your system allow this kind of thing to happen?
Well, that's interesting. I think the Americans voted for Nixon just so they could get rid of him.
Voted for Nixon to elect him so they could get rid of him? Now, you gotta be joking.
No, I really think, because, you know, I took a trip across the country right after the election. It took me 2 months. You can't say you know America when you live like I do on the East Coast and the West Coast. So I wanted to see what these Americans were like. And I must have interviewed, I don't know, 300 people in that 2 months. Because I was doing a book and I wanted to know why they voted for him. This was, of course, before any of the allegations were proven, et cetera, about Watergate. Every American, whether they were a child or a woman or a man, said, since politics are so corrupt, we've elected the man who's the best at it.
That's an extraordinarily cynical attitude, which I wouldn't expect from Americans.
Well, I was going to say we can be very cynical, but I don't think so. I think we're idealistic, and at the same time that we elected him, we knew that if we put him up there, he would be exposed.
You mean that a kind of built-in feeling that he would eventually self-destruct?
Sure. That's what I meant by our electing him to get rid of him. And that's a historical analysis of it. You know, a kind of an apocalyptic analysis, but we're like that. We're apocalyptic people.
And where do you stand now? Oh, let's finish on Nixon. Let's not let you away with Nixon quite so easily. A couple of guys were caught in a break-in. A couple of little nosy reporters started the ball of wax rolling, right? And when everything was exposed, what did you do? He appoints a new president who forgives him and pardons him.
Yeah, I think that was wrong, too.
Could that happen again?
Probably not, because Ford lost the election as a result of it, and politicians will never make those mistakes again that make them lose elections.
I suppose not. Let's go back to showbiz, though, because who really cares about politics? Oh, but first of all, you're a good friend of Jimmy Breslin's, aren't you? Are you?
I don't like his values.
Well, there's a story in the book you can get from there to here about Jimmy Breslin And the Eagleton thing was just absolutely fascinated me.
Right.
What was the story?
Well, I can't tell it on there. There's too many in it.
I knew you'd fool me on that. Very simply put, you were sitting one day on the campaign trail, right? And you get a phone call from Breslin, the wee fat, tough Irish American on the New York paper. And he breaks to you the bad news about Eagleton.
Oh, it was hilarious, yeah. I really can't quote it, and it's the rhythm of this comedy, because every other word that he uses
is the four letters. That's right. I've got to keep. But the best crack of all, Shirley, is when he said, everywhere he goes, we've got to plug him into a socket, right?
Because of the electroshock treatment.
That was cruel and an unkind thing for you to put in your book anyway, wasn't it?
Look who's talking about unkindness and cruelty, for goodness sake, as you wipe your brow out of fear and terror.
In case you come out with another string of four-letter words.
In case I come over there and jump on you.
Tell me, Shirley, are you... Please, my family is watching.
They'd
Please.
probably love it.
Please.
They'd see some life in the old boy yet.
While we're on the subject, are you liberated?
Are you saying please, please? Why are you saying please?
I'm saying please, please.
You want me to liberate you, do you, Jack?
Tell me, are you liberated? I've never been so humiliated, mortified, or embarrassed in my life.
Jack Webster is liberated.
Liberated. But you're not really liberated anyway.
No, just like you.
Just like me. Hypocrite.
We talk a lot, but it's all a bunch of bull. Right? That's what it is.
There you go again. You're just impossible. How old are you?
Old enough.
Anyway, the joy of your life is what? Apart from me. Apart from me. Why did you go back to dancing and doing your own show?
Well, because I'd been afraid before to do it.
You afraid?
Sure.
Picked out of a chorus line and you did that cheeky thing when you were in a Swan Ballet number where you blacked out your teeth. Remember that story?
You have read my books, haven't you?
Yes, I've read your books. And I've got a, fair insight into your character.
Do you? Well, keep on one consistent subject and ask me some things instead of jumping all around.
You were telling me, Shirley, that you've decided that your best contribution to mankind isn't necessarily propaganda for China, but dancing and freeing your soul for others to watch.
I don't know why you say that I am pro-communist, because I
didn't say you were pro-communist. Don't be silly. I didn't say that at all.
What did you say?
I said you made a quick trip to China and came back entranced with the country.
I didn't come back entranced. I came back very impressed at what they've done in 23 years.
We're only arguing now about the difference between impressed and entranced.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah. I don't get entranced that easy, except with you. I'm finding myself absolutely mesmerized.
As a matter of
by
fact.
his extraordinary personality.
Thank you very much.
You know who you remind me of?
Don't tell me.
A cross between Archie Bunker and my father.
If you had said...
I have this feeling.
If you had said, that's mine. Thank you.
You bring out the most extraordinarily maternal instincts in me. I really could just come right over there on your lap and tell you all the things there are to make you happy.
That's enough.
Enjoying the
A cross between Archie Bunker and your father. Your father was quite a nice guy, according to the book. Wasn't he? Fairly blunt, direct and straightforward. Now, if you'd said a cross between Archie Bunker and Charles Lawton... No, I don't like the Archie Bunker bit at all, I must confess.
Oh, no. He's very,
Is he a nice guy?
Sure. Wouldn't be that popular if he wasn't a nice guy.
Oh, don't kid yourself. Some television programs appeal to the worst in people. Spreader of bigotry and race hate. You don't agree?
And even with your show that's gone up so much with these ratings because of your supposed you go out there and hit him over there, they know what a twinkling little soft-hearted, cuddly person you are.
No, 10 seconds. Can I say something nasty?
No.
Hey?
Tape's the wrong tape.
No, I can't say that. Will I just let it go? Wasn't that bad, was it?
It was entertaining. Let it go.
Give him a wide shot.
Smile. Up. Yeah. Come on.
That was, oh. I wouldn't have put it on. What about the lights?
Put the lights up, please. 30 seconds, yeah. No, 16.
Monday, Michael Harcourt, almost bound to be crowned as the new leader of the NDP, will be on the Webster program, live and in living colour, with all his new policies and charisma at 5 p.m. precisely.